This is Neil Ratner, Rockdoc here on WDST Radio Woodstock with another episode of This Week in Rock with support from Transcend Dental and my friend, the amazing dentist and rock star Bruce Milner. Visit Transcend Dental, his stunning new office at 2 Maverick Road on the corner of Maverick Road and Route 375. Rick Derringer would have turned 78 this past week. Known for his band The McCoys, collaborations with Johnny and Edgar Winter, and his solo work, Rick was also a sought-after session musician who played on notable albums by Steely Dan, Cyndi Lauper, and Bonnie Tyler, as well as producing Weird Al Yankovic's Grammy Award-winning hit Eat It. In the summer of 1965, the McCoys were hired to back a band called the Strangeloves. They were record producers from New York City who were actually looking for a band to record the song My Girl Sloopy. The McCoys agreed, and the song was released as Hang On Sloopy, which reached number 1. Rick and the McCoys had 7 songs chart in the top 100 and became the house band at a very popular club in New York operated by Steve Paul called The Scene. Paul also managed Johnny Winter and wanted to take Johnny in a more rock and roll direction, so he suggested the McCoys as Winter's backup band. However, since the McCoys were known as a bubblegum pop band, Paul decided not to use their name and call the band Johnny Winter And. Rick's first assignment was to write a song for Johnny that incorporated both his blues background and rock and roll.
So I have to write a song that is going to bring Johnny more into rock, but at the same time, we're not changing Johnny into something he's not. So, okay, it's rock. So it has to have something rock and roll. Rock and roll. So, okay, even the title says rock and roll. Okay, the title says rock and roll. But then how else do we tie it into Johnny's past, into his legacy, into his roots? And I said, we got to have blues words somehow in there. Blues stuff. Hoochie Coochie Man. Hoochie Coochie Man. So I said, okay, rock and roll Hoochie Koo. There you go. Okay, we got a title. A little cumbersome, a little long, but nonetheless, we're tying rock and roll with Hoochie Koo. And that's all it's about. Now I have an exercise in intellectual skill. Now, if I'm a songwriter and I'm a fairly intellectual guy, how do I make, what song is Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo even about? I had no clue. So I just right away started telling stories about my past. I couldn't stop moving when it first took hold, and I'm thinking back when I used to go see the Jokers. It was a warm spring night at the old town hall. I would go, hang out at this place. It was like a band stand in this park in Greenville, Ohio. And I'm just seeing this vision. There was a group called the Jokers. They were laying it down. And so I'm just relating real stories from my past that in some ways have to do just with music and rock and roll. And just I just still didn't know what rock and roll Hoochie Koo was. And I still didn't when the song was done. Rock and roll Hoochie Koo. Lordy mama, light my fuse.
I met Rick Derringer during the summer of 1969. I had sublet an apartment in New York City's East Village, and Rick and his wife Liz were my neighbors. 6 months later, thanks to Rick, I was road manager for Edgar Winter and his new band White Trash. All right, let's listen. From the live album Roadwork, with Rick Derringer on guitar and special guest Johnny Winter, Edgar Winter's White Trash, and Rock and Roll Hoochie Koo.